sometimes you can get like a viral video that would get, tens of millions of views, but how do you transition those views into actual sales?
Is that you want to find a subtle way to demonstrate your product and how it's being used or how it solves the problem that your audience has, and then add some entertaining factor. It generated a ton of engagement. We got millions and like tens of millions of views. Controversial angles do work really well too.
Oh guys, Alex Fedotoff here from E-commerce Scaling Secrets, and today I have an amazing e-commerce entrepreneur here, Jordan Kilgour, and he generated over 1 billion views with his e-commerce brand, and today he'll be sharing what's working right now on TikTok, how to get sales, how to get traffic, how to get views, so we can learn from him and replicate it for our own businesses. Jordan, thank you so much for...
Pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're here in actually in a TikTok headquarters in beautiful New York City. We have like tremendous view. I wish we could share with you, but we can. And Jordan, great meeting you. So Jordan you're originally from Australia?
I am, yeah, Brisbane, Australia.
Yeah, Brisbane, Australia, but right now you live in the United States.
Yes, I do, yeah.
And you run an e-commerce brand that is selling
custom controllers, so PlayStation and Xbox.
PlayStation and Xbox controllers that you can fully customize. Your website is
GameNetics.com.
GameNetics.com. So if you're looking for some, very customized, like very cool looking game controllers, if you're into gaming, I personally don't play because it's so fucking addictive.
Yeah, it is. I'm the same way, man. I just live through GameNetics.
And so how did you start this e-commerce business?
Yeah, great question. By the way, glad to be here, happy to be here, and excited to share with you guys. So we really started this back in 2015, and it really started from, no joke, our parents' basement. So we had a bunch of controllers lying around that needs to get fixed up, and so we decided to kind of start fixing them up and reselling them on eBay. That's how it all started. Make a long story short, we moved into selling used controllers and then new controllers. We started adding customized parts to the controller, so like the faceplate, and then like the buttons, changing the colors out.
Why you decided to add those customized parts?
So we kind of noticed that there was a lack of personalization in the market. And so when we started selling these controllers, like these broke controllers, and fixing them and learning on YouTube, right? Because like it was the early days, we didn't know if it was going to work, right? And before that, we had 5 failed products that just didn't work.
Oh,
right?
Wow. So did you start like drop shipping model?
Yes. Yeah. So we started drop shipping model. Test some products, and then we also tested ordering some inventory from Alibaba to our house to then ship it out of, and all those products failed as well. So we still have inventory of that to this day, actually. It's kind of funny. But really it was just like an evolution, we kind of just noticed things and learned things along the way, and then we eventually got to the point where like, okay, people are buying these controllers, so let's see if we can add some personalization to it. So that's where it really started. And then over the years we started selling on eBay, then we moved to selling on Etsy and Amazon, and we started building kind of an in-house team to help us build these controllers. And in those early days, we just reinvested everything, right? We were in our parents' house, we didn't have all these expenses, we were just reinvesting everything and trying to get more sales. And so that's really where it all started. The rest is kind of history at this point, yeah.
And so initially when you started the business, I mean, you've been through like different stages of e-commerce, like evolution, different stages, different traffic platforms. So initially you started the business like we're on Facebook ads?
So initially we started with eBay, Etsy, and Amazon. So the first ads we actually did were Amazon ads. So we ran, Amazon PPC ads on the platform. And then the first ads outside of that, we started actually running them on TikTok before Meta. So TikTok were actually our first paid ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yep, they were. So
was it good? Was it performing or not?
Oh, it was fantastic. So there's a large portion of the story where we were selling on third-party platforms, and this kind of leads into the next part of the story is we didn't really have a brand. We were just kind of selling a product with some customized parts. No one even knew who we were. So even selling them in the PlayStation and Microsoft boxes, no one knew they were coming from us. People online just probably thought they were buying them from the normal retailers. And we saw a problem with this because there was just so much competition coming to Amazon, right? And we were like, okay, what happens if one day this all just disappears or someone starts doing what we're doing as well? we might not be able to sell the amount of controllers we were. And so funnily enough, as the years went by, we had that moment happen where we had more competition coming to the market, and we also had Amazon, who is in control of our traffic, take down 70% of our listings.
Oh wow! For what
overnight?
reason?
They said it had something related to drugs in the description. We had no clue why it happened. It was very, very confusing. And we were never able to escalate enough to get our listings reinstated, and we lost 70% of our revenue overnight. So there's a lot in that first part of the story. I'm happy to dive a bit deeper if you want to kind of get some clarity around that. But that's really where the focus was going into, like, okay, we got to own our own traffic, we got to have our own website, we got to have our own brand, because the longevity of selling on third-party platforms, it just wasn't going to work.
Wow, that's interesting. And I think, it kind of just shows you like different, like you mentioned, different stages of the business that you've been through, right? And, as an entrepreneur, I think, you go through your journey, and it's not always like instant success. Or even if you have that success, right? You still have to constantly innovate and find that like other ways around.
Correct.
Like you mentioned, where 70% of your traffic is taken, some people at that point would just give up. Oh, it's like, it's not working,
right.
Let's move to something else.
Yeah.
You decided to pivot, you decided to find another approach, and that's what got you to success eventually.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, during that period of time, we did lose 70% of our revenue. We had foresight before that it was going to happen. We were worried because we'd already had a few listings come down, and we were like, well, what happens if they just take down all of them? That whole business is done, you know what I mean? And we have no control over getting them back if we can't get in contact with someone, right? So our foresight was, if we don't do this now, if we don't start planning and preparing to build a brand, then we may not even have a company, you know what I mean? So during 2020 and 2022, for those 2 years, behind the scenes, while the business was running, we were just building. Like, we were like, new brand name, new website, new packaging, like all of those creative aspects was some of the things that I wanted to implement into the brand to make us different. And then one of our big value propositions in the market we wanted to bring was be the most customizable controller and do things that every other of our competitors weren't very good at, which was bad customer service, shipping times were horrendous, and we wanted to provide a premium unboxing experience. We invested very heavily into our packaging experience, which really lies heavily into how we're able to build such a big organic following, is that unboxing experience, because it is such a great experience, it impacts people to then want to film it and take photos of it and post it on social media, right? So those 2 years, we were building something really big that we knew when we launched, we'd have a competitive advantage. And during those 2 years is when we lost 70% of our revenue. And because of the profit we had, put aside, we just kept going and reinvesting until we launched the new brand. So,
oh, wow. This is like...
It's a crazy story. Yeah, I don't want to take too long telling the story, but yeah.
But I think, it's such a great lesson that when you face challenges in your business, inevitably you'll face them, or you have already faced them if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, that there's always a way out. There's always a solution. Like there's always, different traffic source. You can always recreate your business if necessary, if you really want that business to work. Yeah.
Can I share one experience that I think would be impactful for the audience? So there was one, in talking about mistakes and failures, like if you haven't made mistakes and failures, I'm very much of the opinion that you're going to really have a hard time being successful because it comes with the territory. And there was a moment that we had spent all of this time, this was around the beginning of 2022, we had projected to launch our website before Q4 of 2021, right? And we didn't launch it, which Q4 is the biggest time of the year. We were like, okay, we're gonna recoup a bunch of revenue. And it was just delays. We just couldn't get it live, right? So that month, I remember sitting down with my brother and we were like, we're looking at all the financials, we were looking at all the numbers, we invested so much profit into the new brand. We were like, crap, like we need to make money in the next 6 weeks because we have obligations to the bank, our bank loans, our investments, right? And we had a certain amount of overhead. We'd hired more people for the new brand. We built a whole content studio. We went from a 900 square foot space to a 4,500 square foot warehouse space with like a content studio and content equipment, right? We put a lot of money into it. And so we're at a crossroads. We're like, okay, like we have to launch this brand and make money fast, but we're going to have some difficulty like meeting our obligations, and we may have to lay some people off. And we were like, we don't want to do that. You know, it was a very scary time. We were like, man, we put all this effort and energy into this, and it could just, you know, it might be done still, you know? The one thing we've been trying to prevent to do the entire time. So during those first 6 weeks, we put in 90, 100 hours a week, man. It was like go time. Everything that I thought about was just making content on TikTok and generating revenue. And in those first 6 weeks, we were able to come out and make $70,000 in sales.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and our goal was to do 50,000.
Fully organically?
Fully organic, no ads.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had some constraints, and that just like forced you to perform, and you had specific deadlines as well.
Exactly. And the event itself could have caused anxiety, stress to the point where we're like, we can't do this, right? That moment, you've probably had this moment where you're like, do I keep going, or do I just throw in the towel, or do I just try and find a way out, or do I just double down and go harder and believe that myself and the team can do this? And that's the route we went.
Oh, wow.
You know, and because we did that, in hindsight, it's very clear, oh, that was the right thing to do, right? But at the time, it was anxiety, it was stress, it was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I hope this works, right? A lot of people who start e-commerce businesses, they're like, that's the feeling they have. And that's what I want everyone listening to know, is that people like Alex and I, we've been through that, and we still go through those feelings of doing those new things and getting to those new levels, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, we've had also like so many moments in our business where it's like, you know, like, do we keep like putting money into this business, or do we just like shut it down and move on? And, you know, obviously, you know, sometimes in a moment like you're emotional, but then you just give it, you know, a little bit of time. You're just like, okay, you know, kind of like try to disattach yourself from that particular like situation. Try not to make emotional decisions.
It's hard not to sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
And then, you know, there's always solution. There's always like a way to make things work if you just think creatively. And that's exactly what you did. So what type of content worked about, like direct, you know, deadline you had, very specific timeline, you had to make it work. Like what kind of content you started with, what kind of content got you that initial traction?
Yeah, great question. So the type of content that worked for us in the beginning is actually still the style of content that works today. And what I'm speaking of is the content that you create specifically on TikTok, which is where we decide to put all of our focus into to generate that revenue, is making authentic content. Authenticity is the most important aspect of this. So what does that look like in practice? Well, when we were deciding on like, okay, we got to make TikToks every single day, right? Because we knew we had 6 weeks. We had to make as many TikToks as we could because we knew that would give us the best chance. We were like, okay, what can we film that would be valuable for our customers? Well, let's film some content of shipping out a product. Let's film some content around the warehouse showing how the product is made, right? And so we started just kind of using our creativity to come up with tons of different ideas, but do it in a way that's authentic, like showcase like, hey, we're being transparent. This is how we build our products. This is what it's going to be like when you receive your product. This is how it's done before it's shipped, right? And showing that transparency builds trust with customers. And so whenever we talk with brands about making content even today, authenticity is key. And people struggle to be authentic sometimes, you know? And I think even...
Why do you think is that?
I think because people are afraid. I think people are afraid to be authentic. They're not afraid, or they're afraid to be themselves. They're afraid to show reality because like social media today is so not reality. You know what I mean? Like everyone's trying to one up the next person. Everyone's trying to do the status play. Everyone's trying to, you know, pretend they're the best, or they know the only strategy that works, right? That's what it's all about. So people desire that, but that authenticity connects in here with people. And so when a customer can feel that from a brand and see that from a brand in execution, I think that they already feel attached to the brand because they feel like, one, the brand trusts them by showing them inside the business, and two, that element of trust makes so much more of an impression than just like a general commercial or a business gatekeeping how they do things, right? So if businesses and brands can be more willing to just not be afraid to be themselves, then I think that they would find that a lot of people would respect them for that. And that would actually make them stand out and not be like the other brand, right?
Wow, this is such a good point. I think, like you said, both like people, when they're building personal brands, they kind of just showing the best moments of their life, and kind of like showing everything is perfect. Like they only show the best moments, vacations, cars, watches, stuff like that. Or when it comes to like building the brand, like, I even seen some of those kind of moments where, the ads that work very well. People showing like 1-star review, right? And they're like, this is like 1-star review from this customer. They saying certain things about this, and then addressing that, and then people see that as you being authentic and being like straightforward. Yes, we're not like there's not a single brand in the world that has like all of the 5-star reviews.
No.
There probably will be like some unhappy customers in every brand. Like, even if it's like Apple, Apple, you go on Trustpilot, they have like 2 out of 5 reviews, like Apple.
Right, that's crazy.
Like Tesla, like Mercedes, like Rolls-Royce, probably there's unhappy customers, Rolls-Royce, buyers.
Right.
And so just being transparent and using that as ammunition and pretty much kind of like turning that to show like that you're real, like there is fuck-ups, there are fuck-ups.
Yep.
But you're able to face those and being like vulnerable at those moments.
You know what? There's something that has crossed my mind. I can't believe I'm actually saying this on camera right now, because I'm trying to live what I preach. I'm gonna be really vulnerable with you guys. This is something that happened to me recently. This is what I'm talking about. So, I bought my dream car 3 months ago, and 3 days ago, I haven't put this out anywhere. I can't believe I'm sharing this right now with you on a video, but. I got back, I had an issue with my car. I took it in, and Jaguar got back to me and said that my engine's blown.
Shit.
My engine's blown.
How many miles?
16,000.
16,000 miles?
Yeah. And
you put 16,000 in...
No. I only had it I bought it at 12,000 miles.
12,000 you put 4,000.
So this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, you see the cars, right? My whole engine is blown right now. It's a $20,000 to $25,000 repair. And I'm devastated. I mean, I was emotional 3 days ago when it happened. Here in freaking New York City, like, it looks like everything's great, right? But like, that is something that really hit home to me. And I know this is a personal experience and not a brand experience, right? Because brands have bad things that happen, like the reviews. But this is what social media needs to be more about, is authenticity. And it sucks. Why would I want to share that on my social media, right? Because that doesn't make me look good. It's not like me driving in my car being cool, right?
Yeah.
My engine's freaking blown. Freaking sucks. If anyone that's happened to, I'm sorry, and it's a terrible experience. So the point here, and the reason I share it, is authenticity is important. Because now people don't see us here in front of New York City with this beautiful background, thinking to themselves, I don't know if I can be like that. I don't know if I can resonate with that person. Guys, like, we're just normal human beings. We have bad experiences. Blowing my engine, it sucks. It's a terrible experience. And we have things that happen that maybe we don't share enough. Maybe we need to be more willing to share with other people, And the same parallel speaks volumes to how brands should handle things too.
Wow. This is deep.
Yeah.
This is deep.
I like going deep. I do.
Let's get to tactical.
Yeah.
Like getting views and getting sales, right?
Yeah.
You manage, there's different kind of ways to produce content, make content for brands, and you mastered that craft, like generating over like 1 billion views.
Yeah.
What have you seen, like in terms of transitioning views into actual sales? Like what helped you to bridge that gap? Because sometimes you can get like a viral video that would get tens of millions of views, but how do you transition those views into actual sales?
Yeah, this is a really good question too, because not every viral video is made the same in the sense that it has the same impact on sales. Some videos are really good at building the brand some videos are better at conversions, and sometimes you can't always know what's going to happen from a viral video. But what we've noticed is that the videos that convert into sales have some element of the product being demonstrated in the video in some way, right? Mm-hmm. It can be broad targeting and appeal in the hook. But then as the video goes along, you can somehow incorporate the product subtly that doesn't feel like you're in the face, selling the product. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I was just showing you a video from, maybe we could throw this up or whatnot, but I'll explain it with Gainetics, where one of the ads that we run is a video where like we have a whole controller covered in peanut butter, right? It's covered in peanut butter. So like the opening shot, the first 1 second of the video is just this covered peanut butter controller, right? Like it's gross, but it catches people's attention. It's weird, right? And then the person behind the camera grabs the controller and then takes it back, cleans it, and then customizes it. So it's capturing people like a broad audience attention, but it still then demonstrates what we actually sell, which is the customized controller. Mm-hmm. So you have to get creative with how you do it for your brand. Every brand is different because every product is different. I can't answer the question here and just say, hell, well, you should do this, right? But the concept is that you want to find a subtle way to demonstrate your product and how it's being used or how it solves the problem that your audience has, and then add some entertaining factor that has broad appeal to it, that could help that video go viral. And most importantly, we find that having a CTA to the website of some sort or some sort of call to action at the end in a subtle way is good too. It doesn't need to be like in the camera saying like, go to our website at blah, blah, blah.com, right? Like you can be a bit more subtle about it, but at least somewhat insinuate a call to action to go purchase or to go look at it. Yeah.
So those elements, like introducing entertainment, if you can, kind of, because when you're talking about like providing value with content, entertainment is one of the forms of value.
It is, yes.
Like people spend like countless hours like watching, comedians or just going on TikTok and watching some funny things. I like to watch some funny things.
Yeah.
And so it's always like a good way to get attention, but then you have to, as you mentioned, transition that attention into something that incorporates your product. And at the end, as you mentioned, having some subtle call to action.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, for example, another example, a real case example for you guys is there was this video we made on our channel, and I know you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but it's this controller that we did this cheat code, like fake cheat code thing on the controller, and then we edited it so the buttons would change color, like RGB, and they would change color in the video. So people thought that it was like this crazy controller that we sold, but it was just post-production editing, right? And so people were like, is it real or fake, right? It generated a ton of engagement. We got millions and like tens of millions of views, but it struggled to generate sales. It didn't have as much impact on sales as the peanut butter video did. So it's also understanding like your customers and who you're targeting to, and like what, it's tailoring the content to certain people, and also the intent of the content is different, right? That type of video is just strictly entertainment, rather than it being about a customized controller. And I also remember that video, it was just like a normal black controller, like an Xbox controller. So there was no customization. So it didn't really sell the customization aspect, right? So the intent matters when you're making content. And I think that you want to make entertaining content. I think entertainment breaks that sales barrier where people like, they drop their, when you walk into a car dealership, right? You got your walls up, you're like, I'm not buying a car today, you know what I mean? And then as soon as they build rapport with you and you warm up, you're like, oh, okay, then you kind of are more open and you share more. It's the same thing with a video. You have to break down those sales walls, right? And the way you do that is entertainment. If you're all serious and you're trying to sell something, then like it's a little harder. So being entertaining, especially through social media advertising, is really, really effective.
Do you like to use like controversy of some sort, like in the videos?
Yes. Controversial angles do work really well too. So depending on the product and industry, right, you can be controversial as well, and that catches people's attention.
What would you do, let's say, with your product? Like what kind of...
Controversial? Let's see, controversial angle on a controller. So you could say something like, I don't know how the video would be executed video-wise, but like you could tell the camera, you say, guys, like I'm telling you right now, Xbox is so much better than PlayStation. Like you can't even compare the two. Xbox is so much better, and here's why, right? Then you got all the freaking keyboard warriors in the chat.
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
Oh no, Xbox sucks at this. PlayStation's good at
there's
this.
a fight.
Yeah,
There is
right?
a fight.
So it's also industry-specific controversial topics too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing and understanding like what your customer actually thinks and experiences, right? So yeah, that would be an example.
You tried that?
So we did make some content where we made some saying like Xbox or PlayStation is better, and it did get tons of comments, like tons, dude. And that was one topic we actually did a lot on Instagram Reels that worked really well. I don't know what it was about Instagram, but it just seemed to work really well there, where everyone was commenting and saying this, that, and the other, and those videos went viral on Instagram.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned here from all of the presentations at TikTok headquarters, from having conversations with entrepreneurs like you, is having like TikTok first focus.
Yes.
Is very important.
Yes.
For like creating content. If you want to like just scale the production of the content to grow your sales for your business, understanding how TikTok works is just crucial for your success.
Yes, it is. And I remember one particular conversation that we were having right before this that we were like, oh, I wish we were recording this, where we were discussing this exact topic. And let's kind of reiterate a little bit of that, what we were just talking about. So we were talking about how being TikTok first and focusing on TikTok first is a really great angle, because if you think about how social media has evolved, TikTok came into the game late, right? Like we got Meta, Instagram, YouTube, right? So they had to do some things a little bit differently to garner the amount of attention they have now, which, most people spend 2 to 3 times more on TikTok than any other social media platform, and they have more active users than any other social media platform. Well, they're very close approaching that, and they're growing very quickly. And one of the things that TikTok brought to the market was innovation. The innovation on something that hadn't changed in so many years, which was the algorithm. And so what they did was they brought an algorithm to the market, and then look what happened with Meta. Look what they did. They followed suit. Instagram Reels was released. Oh, wow, I wonder where that idea came from, right? YouTube Shorts was released. Oh, I wonder where that idea came from, right? So they all followed suit. And the reason why that is significantly important is because a company that large to release a new method of content, right? And how we consume video content, it clearly had a big impact on what TikTok was doing to them, which was driving away traffic from their platforms, right? Your TikTok was taking attention away. And that's not what they want. They wanted attention, right? That's what they're all competing on. So when we think about it, the Reels content and the YouTube Shorts content, the TikTok algorithm is not released anywhere. No one knows how it actually works, right? And Meta and YouTube, they want their hands on that, And they've done a good attempt at trying to implement the TikTok algorithm into their platforms, but they haven't done it to the scale that TikTok has. And so when we say this really brings us back to your first point, which is why we should be TikTok first. And that is because the TikTok algorithm is very different. It tailors content towards good content, no matter the followers, no matter the status. It just rewards great content.
So even if creator has, let's say, 2,000 followers, but they create good content, TikTok will create an exposure for them for like potentially, millions of views.
Yes.
Rather than, let's say, just prioritizing creators that have tens of millions of views and prioritizing, even if they produce kind of lower quality content.
Yep, exactly. Because authenticity speaks. That's what it's all about, right? And so when we're talking about the TikTok first approach, the reason why, in addition to what we've suggested here, is if you learn how to do TikTok, you learn the algorithm, you understand how it all works, we have found that when you leverage TikToks organically in ads and you repurpose them to Meta and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, they perform generally and exceptionally well by just repurposing those to the other platforms.
How many followers do you have on your YouTube?
We have just around 1.1 million.
On YouTube?
Oh, sorry. That's all of our socials. We have about just over 550,000.
On YouTube, purely by
repurposing TikToks to YouTube Shorts.
Dropping
500,000.
So TikTok created already, just repurposing.
Yep. One tool that I would recommend that you guys look into that can do it automatically for you is a tool called repurpose.io, where it can set up an automation so when you post to TikTok, it'll automatically post to YouTube Shorts.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to do a single thing.
You don't have to even hire like a VA or something to do it.
Do it automatically. And you can do the same thing for Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels too.
How many followers do you have on Instagram?
We have about 50,000 on Instagram.
50,000. Yeah. Okay, so Instagram is not kind of...
Yeah, it hasn't been a big focus for us because repurpose.io actually didn't come out and integrate the features that we wanted to until I think probably the last year or so, 6 months. So we haven't been reposting onto Instagram because you had to do it all manually.
Oh.
You know, we just weren't doing that, you know? So now we're starting to like backlog all of our TikToks and post them on Instagram. So hopefully we'll be at a couple 100,000 followers soon on Instagram too.
Wow. I've heard like YouTube has integrated either Shopify or something into their...
Yeah, YouTube Shop. Yeah, we actually just got that set up, I think last month.
Nice.
And so one of the issues with YouTube Shorts is it's great for going viral. It's great platform retention, right? A lot of people on YouTube, like they're planning to sit there and be there for a while, you know? So the YouTube Shop, now you can link products to your Shorts and they can just link off and purchase them, you know? So that's big because on YouTube, you have a link in bio, but people are much less willing to go to YouTube, your YouTube like channel, your bio, and click a link. Whereas like TikTok and Instagram, everyone knows like link in bio is like a thing. You know, with YouTube, it's not as common. So having the product be able to link to the short is game changing. So we're going to kind of monitor to see how much sales we can generate from that. But yeah, excited about shopping.
That's awesome. Yeah. So initially when you started, was the whole like TikTok strategy, like you were pretty much generating all of the ideas. You were also shooting it yourself?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I made hundreds of TikToks myself too. So had a creative director that I trained up, got him integrated into TikTok. We kind of worked hand in hand. He would film one thing, I'd film something else. We'd come together and just share ideas. It was a really good collaborative environment for us to just kind of be boots on the ground, learning how to make TikToks and then use that knowledge to then, you know, now we teach lots of people how to use it, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was a collaborative effort and we were able to like cover more ground really with us both filming content at the warehouse.
Would you recommend for entrepreneurs to just, you know, get their hands dirty, like with TikTok, understand, post some stuff, you know, post different formats, experiment with things, or would you recommend just hire some agency who would have them like, kind of like figure it out for them?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think that it's easier to outsource in the beginning. Like if you outsource an agency or someone to help you from the outside, I think internally it has more value and more impact, you know, and trying to build a team inside of the company, because I think that is part of our competitive advantage at GameNetics is that we did do things in-house. It can cost sometimes a little bit more, but you're able to evolve so much as a company when you have everything happening inside. You know, when you use an outside partner, it's like they care about the results to the extent of what they make. And by the way, I'm an agency owner, so I'm saying this as an agency owner, okay?
That's being authentic.
yeah, exactly. But there's a lot more value that can come from having an internal team like that and the impact that can come, how you evolve and create more content, ideas, because agencies like, they are skilled people who have the knowledge to help you run ads, but they're not as invested in your company as you are and your employees, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking. So yeah, I would say internal team is at first, but you have to kind of evaluate, like maybe there's someone in your company that could, you know, does shipping, that could say, hey, you want to film some quick iPhone videos of, you know, packaging up orders. Start there. You know, it doesn't need to be anything complex where you hire a videographer with a rig and everything. You know, you just start with your phone.
So you mentioned you have a creative director now, like,
yes,
and that person pretty much replicates everything that, I mean, the whole skill set that you have.
Yes.
You train that person to pretty much do kind of like similar output that you had. How did you find that person? How did you train them? How did you know if that's the right person to hire and train and invest all this time and resources into?
I love this question because I've made a lot of hires and I've made a lot of good ones and bad ones. So I've learned a thing or two about hiring. And what I've found is this particular creative director, really, really solid dude, really like him as a person. And one of the first things you need to do when hiring, if you really want to build something that's going to stand the test of time and grow into something big, you have to hire on character. You have to hire on character and who they are, their morals, their values. You don't want to hire on skill set because skill sets can be trained. Skills can be learned. So we prioritize character and also how they fit into the current culture of the business. So generally the way that looks is when I sat down to do interviews with hiring a creative director, I wanted to find out, one, that he was interested and loved gaming, right? If he didn't know anything about gaming, I didn't really want him to be part of the company because it wouldn't really make the most sense, right? If someone was like, gaming, whatever, right? There's not gonna be passion there, right? And so he was very passionate about gaming. He knew a lot about gaming. He also went to Full Sail University in Florida for videography. So I knew he had some experience, but he was also just a very humble and teachable guy. And that's really important too. So I would say character one, how they fit in your culture, how they get along with the rest of the team. If you can give kind of a little like shadowing experience or show them around the warehouse or the place, or, you know, bring them onto a Zoom call with the rest of the team and just kind of vibe out, like maybe have like an hour where you guys get together and play, you know, some games like Jackbox or something, or you guys just chat, just hang out with a drink, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of see how he fits into the culture or she fits into the culture.
They have to get them drunk?
No, you don't have to get them drunk. But that is an important part, culture fit, and ultimately just being humble and willing to learn and being teachable. So that made for a great...
That's such a good point, because like if you think about it, like, you know, the industry will say TikTok, like as a platform itself, it evolves. Like, I mean, you have probably seen that evolution. So many things have changed.
It has.
And if person is not coaching, it's like, oh, I've been doing it this way, or I've been creating this type of content, like, and it was working. And they kind of like not adapting and not learning as fast as new things are being introduced, not testing, not innovating, then, you know, there's no way that the company can grow and just, as you said, you know, stand the test of time.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think it's really an important part is hiring. I mean, as you know as well, like finding good people is I would say the secret to success. You got to have good people, man. You know, like I know that you can hire VAs to do certain things, and there's a time and a place for certain, you know, virtual assistants to help. But if you want to build something and build it with people you like being around and you really have a big vision for something, investing in people is the most important part. And it's been a lesson that I've had to learn over the years. I mean, I've been doing marketing and doing business stuff the last 10 years. And like in the beginning, I didn't really care about it as much. As I've gone along, I understood that one, networking is super important. And two is just relationships with other people and finding good people to kind of be on the same mission and vision together. You know, like that's so important. You know, because if you have bad people, it's like you struggle to grow. You only have so much time in a day. You know, you can only set up so many ads and, you know, set up a website and take photo. Like you can't do everything all the time, you know? So you got to find good people.
You also mentioned, so your brother is actually helping you with a business.
Correct.
And
yes.
I mean, like if you go to the website, GameNetics.com, you'll see how many different variations of the product, how many different like variations, customizations.
Like, there's a lot. So we probably have anywhere between 10 to 40 colors per part.
Wow.
We have a total of, I believe, 25 parts for each part of the controller. So you do the math on that, it's like millions and millions of possible combinations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a lot.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And so obviously what that means is, you know, if you're running e-commerce business, you probably kind of like get it, that there's a lot of SKUs, right? Like there's a lot of different moving parts in that business, and your brother pretty much handles the operation side of the business, which is kind of like, how did that relationship come into, like, how did you guys realize your like strong and weak sides, and how did you each find the best application for yourself?
Yeah, this is a great question too. So I've listened to a lot of interviews with people. They talk about like finding complementary business partners or people to work with. And I don't know about you, but for me, I've always gravitated towards the same type of skill set that I have. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you kind of because you relate to them, right? You relate to them, you get them, right? Now, with my brother and I, it was a little bit different though, because we are just very different people. I'm a very creative person. I love marketing, I love content, I love the brand, I love creating the vision and the core values and like just mapping everything out, right? And he's more of kind of like, just like the analytical, like, you know, he wants to make sure everything's run smoothly and the business is just, getting orders out on time, where, getting back to emails and stuff. So he's just like that kind of operations guy, making sure that we can fulfill as we grow. And so it's just kind of naturally fell into place, to be honest. And I think for the audience listening, you're thinking, well, how do I find someone like that? How do I find someone who like wants to be the warehouse guy who's getting orders out on time and fulfilling everything, and find the creative? Well, first, figure out who you are. Are you more of the day-to-day guy? You want to run the operation and, talk to the team and, build people up and help them with problems? Or do you want to be more of the creative guy where you just want to come with crazy ideas and then, share them with the other guy, and then him tell you, oh, that's a bad or a good idea, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out who you are first. And then in terms of finding that person, it can be tough, because it's hard to know, like being my brother, it's easier to trust my brother than just, finding a random partner that I don't know, right? But I think over time, the most valuable thing in finding those key individuals that you're looking for is networking, 100%. It's going to events like this. I mean, it's a pleasure being able to meet you here, right? Like I've seen you all over social media. I don't even think we've really connected until this event, but like these networking events, not only do you get to come to an event where you can learn things that are industry specific, but meet people who have the same goals and aspirations and, things that they're building together. And I feel like that's where things kind of bloom from. Yeah.
There is a big kind of like idea, and I've heard it like from many entrepreneurs. Obviously, it's their side of you that you shouldn't hire or work with family members.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, right? I heard that. Yeah,
and you somehow made it work. So
yeah, dude. We definitely argue, man. It's family business, man. But I also I did hear something. I don't know if you listen to Andy Frisella.
Oh yeah.
But he has a lot of family members that work for him too in First Form. And he said, the other day I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he said that a lot of people say don't work with family, but that he was explaining that as long as you have boundaries of like, okay, this is family and this is business, don't let those overlap, and you guys can understand that those boundaries are set in place, it makes it easier. But it does get difficult, you definitely get into, some arguments and some fights, but at the end of the day, if you're all on the same page and you're trying to build the same thing, then you just got to communicate. That's really what it's about.
So when you were just starting out, like was a business, and let's say you wanted to figure out like TikTok, or you wanted to figure out some other things in the business, like did you invest in like some trainings or masterminds or like consulting calls? Like how did you like surpass that learning curve?
Yeah, great question. I have done a lot of I think learning on my own through my own experience as well. In the beginning, I didn't really have a lot of mentors, I definitely, my dad was definitely a mentor to me, right? Like he's not the same industry as I was, but he's an entrepreneur. He's someone that kind of built the work ethic in me, told me that like if I wanted to achieve things, I had to work for it, right? Those things helped me to become the man that I needed to be to build a business. In terms of like mentorship and coaching for like building the brand, I didn't really get a lot of that. It wasn't until probably around 2018-ish, I started looking at like different people to help just learn more. There was Russell Brunson. I was part of the 2CCX club. That was pretty good. It was very insightful. Again, really good for networking. I probably spend like somewhere between $50,000 to $75,000 on coaching and courses over the years, and it's taught me a lot. It definitely has taught me a lot. And it's helped me kind of build my skill set. And honestly, again, I know I keep going back to it, but just meeting people has been the most valuable aspect of anything that I've done.
How is upbringing, like this thing, for instance, your upbringing, like you mentioned your dad instilled like those like core principles that helped you to become, the person who you are today, the entrepreneur that you are today. Like when you have kids, right? How you want to, like, what principles do you want to pass to them, and how would you do the kind of the upbringing process for your kids?
I've never been asked that question. This is a good question, and my wife would love to hear the answer to this question. It is a good question because it's important. I think that we live in a society today where raising kids is hard. I think there's a lot of difficult things that parents need to decide on and how they're going to raise their kids. There's a lot of conflict, a lot of difficulty in this country, especially in the US. and it's hard to know how to raise kids the right way, you know? So for me, I think that the thing that my wife and I have always talked about is helping our kids to explore and be creative and be themselves. I think that's the most important part of allowing a kid to kind of discover the things they're interested in, the things that they love, and just letting them go in that direction. And I think in principle wise, like teach them that, you know, hard work is the most important part in building character. If you just can, you know, in life we all go through problems, and kids are going to go through problems, right? So whenever there's an obstacle or a problem they're faced with, there's always a solution, but then challenging them to figure it out on their own, right? And I think that as parents, and I'm not a parent, so I don't know this, but from what I've heard from others, it's so easy to just be like, oh, here's the answer, let me get you everything you want, right? And I think it's hard for, as a parent, probably to hold back a little bit, you know? But I think that is the most important part of teaching a kid, is that you have to let them be independent. You have to let them to solve their own problems. And again, I'm not saying like just, you know, don't help your kid, but give them the space to figure it out. And I think that for my wife and I, like, we want to raise kids that are going to be hardworking, that they understand that if they want to create a great life for themselves and they want to be happy, then they need to put in the work and they need to spend the time building things. Things don't always happen quickly, right? Things take time to build. You can be patient. So I know there's lots of ideas, but again, I'm not a father just yet, but when I have kids, it's going to be an interesting experience. I'm sure a great one.
Love that answer. So when you first got into the business, kind of like taking you back to those days, like at what point you realized that there's an opportunity to make money, there's an opportunity to build something out of this? Like at what point, like, and how much time did it take? Because, you know, some of the people watching, they might be just thinking to get into the business, or maybe they're playing around, you know, like maybe they want to do like e-commerce or do something else. But then, like, you know, they kind of don't go all in, they kind of like dabble a little bit here, and then like it doesn't work for the first like few months and they give up. Like, how much time did it take for you to get that, to see that initial traction?
I think that the initial traction is defined by the person, right? And I think that definition comes from the expectation of the people they watch online. I think that it's heavily influenced by what they see and who they follow, right? Because they may follow someone who says, you know, who says that, you know, making your first $1,000 is a big deal, or, you know, blah, blah. Or like maybe there's another person that says making your first 10,000 is a big deal, and they did it in 30 days. And so when you don't get in 30 days, you're like, well, I suck. I'm not good enough, right? I can't do this. And they give up, the patience, right? So I think that the initial success for us, like there's moments that happen. I think that entrepreneurship is a game, right? We know that. So entrepreneurship is a game, and I think that when we play the game, we have to continue to move the line further and further ahead. So in order for us to get to, you know, certain milestones, I think that that's just for the person who is working towards their goals or is trying to, I guess, have that belief in themselves so they can actually build something great, right? They have to have they have to have realistic expectations.
Self-esteem, right? And then realistic expectations.
Yes. Yeah. I got thrown off a little bit there for a second, losing my train of thought. But you know, we're just gonna roll this. It's organic, right?
It's authentic.
It's authentic and organic. Yes, exactly. But for someone who's starting out, you can't expect results right away. You have to be patient. You cannot expect to start a dropshipping business and quit your job next month. It can be done, right? I'm not of the belief that nothing's impossible. Well, I am of the belief that nothing is impossible, but it's not realistic. And having realistic expectations and then over-delivering on those expectations by hitting it sooner than you think will always make you happier. But doing it the other way around won't. It'll just make you disappointed, frustrated, impatient. So I think when someone starts a business, the mindset you should have, I could go back and tell my old self, like what I would do, what I would tell myself, don't have a time to when you need to achieve a certain level of success. Just decide that no matter what comes your way, you will find a solution and you will push through whatever problem or challenge you face.
Wow, this is
then
so
you'll
good.
inevitably be successful. Inevitably.
It's like I have to be like millionaire by 20,
Yep.
by 25,
Yep.
like da.
Yep.
You
And
know,
I had those same expectations, and it was tough. It really, really drains on you.
because like then like also let's say, oh, I have this very short time frame to make X amount of money, right? And then you see that what you're doing right now like is not necessarily moving as fast as you want.
Exactly.
You're more inclined to go and look for other shiny object, or like, you know, one
Yeah.
ad.
It's like, what's the next thing?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like an ad, you know, gets
Yeah.
you like on Facebook
Yeah.
or Instagram or TikTok, and like, oh yeah, they promise all of this, like, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing is probably not working. It's a bad opportunity. I'll jump on that, but then they jump on that and realize that, you know, all of the opportunities, like all of the business models, like everything requires work and it takes time for the results to kick in.
Yeah.
And then they switch to another one. And people constantly live in this cycle,
Yeah.
you know, from just switching from one thing to another, trying different things, not sticking to one for extended period of time.
Yeah.
Like it took how much, I mean, it took so much time to get that traction with your business,
Yeah,
find the product
years.
markets. Yeah.
Yeah, years. I mean, it takes years. And like every person that you see online and it may look like they're an overnight success or their YouTube channel blows up or their business blows up, it was always years in the dark, bro. Always years in the dark. No one, you know, it's the days that they didn't see, the hours, the things they sacrificed to get where they are. It may happen quickly, but the reason that it happened quickly is because of the years prior. 100%. There may be some anomalies and some unicorns out there that have done it differently. Most cases, whether it's a successful person who's built a business, even if they tell you their story, guaranteed years before they had to go through the learning process. And so if you commit to that and you understand, okay, for the next several years, I'm gonna just keep learning. I may be successful, but I may not, and I'm not gonna expect it. Then you're gonna get years and years down the road where then at some point you're gonna make it, you're gonna be successful. It's gonna take hard work and commitment and consistency, but it will happen.
Yeah.
You know, it really will. But, you know, expecting 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, like, again, it can happen, but just don't set the expectation for that.
Yeah, even Elon Musk, right? I mean, you know, people look at Elon Musk obviously as, you know, business genius, which he is, right?
Yeah.
But like he started his first business, he was like 10 or 12. Like he was selling some of these things in school. And so he already had, like by the age of 20, he already had on some level like different kind of business experience.
Yeah.
And then by the age of 30, let's say, you know, he already had like 20 years of experience.
Right.
Trying different things, some of them worked, some of them didn't, you know. And so, but the amount of time that it takes to build a successful business is probably a lot higher than you think.
Yeah.
And but if you just like kind of like live with that, and it's like, okay, let's learn as much as we can, you know, let's just make this like a tremendous journey, tremendous learning experience, not focusing too much on the outcome, then it will be like, you'll be a lot happier in the process.
Yes.
Like you'll not be like living in anxiety, as you said, you'll be sleeping better at night, like not waking up like 3 a.m. Like, and just,
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the key there is just being able to consistently work at it and focus more on the daily inputs rather than the outcomes, and you'll make it.
For sure. What would be like one like final like piece of advice for entrepreneurs watching that want to make it in business, whether it, you know, TikTok organic or just like overall like in e-commerce business, like kind of like consolidating all of the experience that you had?
Yeah, for sure. Right now, I would have to say that if you are trying to build an e-commerce business, and as we've learned from today, I see TikTok being one of the biggest opportunities in e-commerce to come around this decade. The decade before was Amazon FBA. Amazon provided a massive opportunity for brands to come to the platform and sell products where today there's over, I think, 100,000 six-figure earners. There's over 20,000 seven-figure earners. And TikTok Shop being released September of 2023, still so new. You can build an e-commerce brand through TikTok Shop. And I believe that the way TikTok Shop is going is that they're going to build this into the Amazon FBA.
That's exactly, I heard it.
TikTok.
That's the second time I hear this today.
Really. I really believe the way they've been going, talking with our partners, just the direction and moves they've been making, it just seems like everything's going that way. Fulfillment by TikTok, like it's happening, you know, and I see that as a massive opportunity that's untapped and still very heavily, you know, follows the same principles as like a normal dropshipping and e-commerce business, but it's just done through the TikTok shop, you know, with fulfillment and all that. Now it will cause a little bit of a difficulty for dropshippers because you've got to have 2 to 3 day shipping, but there's solutions for everything, right? We're going to find solutions for everything. So I'd say that is the biggest thing that I notice. If you're not focused on, you're not trying to learn, you're going to be left behind. That's for sure. And one last thing I want to share with the audience. Like, when I was young, I always want to be a successful entrepreneur. And we stand here today in front of New York. You know, we built this, I built an $8.5 million company. And the last thing that I want to do is make people feel like I'm on a higher pedestal than them, or that there's something different about me than you guys listening. It's definitely not the case, okay? I have my own flaws. I've made many mistakes. I am not perfect by any means, okay? I've just consistently stuck at something for a long time. I've made lots of mistakes and I've failed a lot of the times. But that's what has helped me have the success that I have today. So I was just like you, sitting in my small apartment, paying $700 a month, had no money. I didn't have enough money to pay rent. I had to tell my wife we didn't have enough money to pay rent that month. $700, $800, right? Nothing. And I never knew that I would be here today, standing with you in front of New York at TikTok headquarters. Like, you just don't know these things, but when you just keep walking, you keep going, and roadblock, you climb over it, you go around it, you keep going, you just get places. It's just about not giving up. Like, people always look, what's the secret? What's that? Just don't give up. Just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And I think that that's like so underrated and so simplistic that people just think like, oh no, whatever, like that's not good advice. I hear that all the time. Like, that is literally the advice that I want to give you guys. Is like, one, there's nothing special about me. I have so many flaws. I make so many mistakes. I just keep going, keep taking action, keep learning, keep implementing. So I just want to share that.
Jordan, I mean, it's been a tremendous pleasure. I've learned so much today from you. So
it's been fun.
Thank you so much for, how do people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jordan Kilgour.
Kilgour, like we'll pronounce it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Feel free to message me if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next videos.
See you guys.